Welcome back. We continue here with the series on the role of African-based churches and religion in society following the Alleluia Ministeries resurrection saga that sparked a huge debate in South Africa and the world. The agenda has been inundated with calls from leaders of African-based religions to have their say. But before we have a discussion on this, let's take a look at this clip written and produced by SABC News reporter Maageketla Mohlabe.
December 2017. A morning church service is underway at Alleluia Ministeries International. Among the hundreds of worshippers, 27-year-old Samantha Revesai,
she said, "Man of God,
the mother of one, has been looking for employment since she arrived in the country 6 years ago. She's just a visitor with a prayer request.
They saw the archangel.
I really wanted to go and maybe the pastor pray for me so I can get a job.
She attended the prophetic salt service.
But when Revesai returns the following Sunday, it turns out to be a day of testimonies.
Somebody!
This was no ordinary testimony session though.
For 3 years, she was HIV positive.
For 3 years.
3 years, man of God.
Tell me what happened.
She claims this was staged.
I was not positive. I've never been positive. They wanted me to act as if I was positive, and then pastor prayed for me and I get healed so they can attract other people to come to the church. They promised me money.
How much?
They said they were going to give me 1.5 every month.
As you can see here,
Coming out for the first time.
Yeah. This here, yeah.
This one.
Did you also recruit her?
Yes, this is me.
And this
As you
is
can
the mastermind behind the stunt, 33-year-old Blessing Gwemelau.
Blessing. So she comes Sunday morning because I tell her that it's not a big deal. I'll just give you a paper, a card written you were positive, now you are negative. So it's easy, you don't talk anything. This Pastor Jackie will talk for you.
God healed you of HIV. HIV
4 years.
free.
Gwemelau says Revesai was not his only enlisted actor at the church.
5 years.
We were something like 3 to 4 teams which were doing the same job. So for me, they were coming like Blessing, we need 10 peoples for wheelchairs, 3 ladies which will say we were having breast cancer. We want somebody like she said I was deaf. When the pastor prays for her or for him, he or she will say I'm now hearing.
The church has dismissed the allegations.
For anybody to then allege that the miracles we see, whether it's in the church or on the street, are either staged or people are paid for, I think that's ridiculous. Because then it means we're praying to a wooden God. We're praying to a God who does not manifest his power. We're praying to a God who does not work miracles. And that's not the God we pray to.
But Alleluia Ministries is being denounced once again.
Is a profoundly painful disintegration of a human being. To use that vulnerability for any kind of religious gain, which is false, I quite frankly think is criminal, and just because it's church doesn't necessarily give it, or church in inverted commas, doesn't necessarily give it credence.
What kind of a profession is this where your own peers cannot even call you to order? It's the first of its kind in this country.
The CRL Rights Commission made its recommendations. As lawmakers are yet to act, self-styled prophets continue to prey on the desperate and gullible. Maageketla Mohlabe, SABC News, Johannesburg.
How does it taste like?
All right, we're continuing with this conversation, taking a look at religion and how it's really made headlines recently, and charismatic churches in particular. We're joined in the studio right now and would like to welcome Apostle Thabani Mkhize of the Durban-based Mount Zion Christian Church. Thank you so much for making the trip. You're in Durban and in Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga, Hammersdale, KZN,
Yes.
And then in Johannesburg. We also have got a branch going on in Soweto as well.
Church has been in the headlines recently for all the wrong reasons. We might be talking about the resurrection now, but yesterday we had a court case in Port Elizabeth about the Nigerian pastor who's said to be abusing children. What conversations are you having amongst your peers about this?
Indeed, this is a very sad and disappointing things to talk about. The times that we're facing really call for one to do what we call an introspection. As you say, things that are happening, like a few days ago in New Zealand, Christchurch, people that were worshiping God were gunned down, worshiping God. So that's part of it. So as I say that, it's not maybe about this thing that has happened in our country. Everywhere, there's so much religious intolerance going on. And we cannot sit back and say nothing is happening. So we need to say something. And as a son of somebody, I'm sitting here on my shoulders. I can say that when people look at us or look at me, they will think this is me. No, I'm standing here because in 1972, a man, a founder of Mount Zion Christian Center, by the name Prophet or Bishop Bernard Mkhize, who was my father, formed this movement. And he used to say to me in the latter days of his life that, my son, I feel sorry for you because the days that you are in and the times that you are in are different.
More complex.
Very complex. Money has come in, fame has come in, popularity has come in, and Jesus has taken the back seat. This is what has happened.
You're talking about Jesus. The Christchurch example is the Muslim religion. What is the role of church in 2018?
The role of church in 2018 is to preach love.
2019,
sorry. I'm following you on that one.
I know.
It's to preach love. Because remember this, Paul writes in 1 Corinthians chapter number 14. He says, here stands three things. One, faith, hope, and love. Above all, love. So the church needs to preach love. God is love, and we must love one another. So if we start from there, we will be able to bring people into the truth, the real truth, which is the gospel of God. For God so loved the world that he gave his son Jesus. That is the truth, and that is the love unto the world.
And one of the things that they say you must believe in the Bible is the word.
The word.
And this is what Christianity preaches. But now we're being told it's miracles. What significance does the word hold against the miracle? Do you believe in miracles in your church?
I believe in miracles, but before I say that, Jesus said, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words, they will remain forever. So even if somebody passes on, everyone says, what was the last word? They hold on to that. Jesus at the cross spoke 7 words. We're still preaching and holding on to that every Passover. So coming back to your question about miracles, I believe in miracles. In our church, we believe in miracles because as an African indigenous church, our fathers who formed this movement, who formed these churches, they had no education, but they believed, maybe they could not even write, but they believed that if you take even a glass of water, you pray for it, you give it to someone, they will be healed. And they were not expecting anything in return. Money was not part of the deal. So miracles do happen. Because God calls and sends his real prophets.
So we saw just in the piece that played before we started our conversation, Father Verain saying that the use of the vulnerability of your congregation to get people to believe in church is not correct. So when you say you believe in miracles, as a churchgoer, how do I know the difference between normal prayer and miracle-inducing prayer? Or at what point do I get convinced that what I'm seeing is truly a miracle?
The first thing that I will say before I answer that question is that we must move away from characters, move away from men, and look unto Christ. John, who came before Jesus, he said, I'm not the one, but there is someone who's coming who will baptize you with water and the Holy Spirit and power. So for you to know, you must just take your eyes away from the person or the individual or the character.
Yeah.
Less of me and more of him. You know, and also let's begin to have faith in God. Not faith in our churches, faith in our preachers, faith in our prophets and our pastors, but faith in God. Believe God and you will be established.
What is your sense from the fact that all these pastors who are making headlines are not necessarily South African pastors? One then begs the question, what are people such as yourselves doing to make sure that you define the identity of church in this country?
The main thing is, if you look at what has been transpiring in the few weeks, in the past weeks, has been a platform for the voiceless to speak, for the Amazayoni to speak, for the people who are not known, who've
but
got
why
no
have
buildings.
you not been using that platform up to now?
It's because no one has been noticing. As I say, our church has been here for 47 years, but it's because of the standards. Maybe there's no sound, there's no television cameras, there's no instruments, there's no glam, if I call it. Because my father started this from his lounge, and I came in, I introduced the instruments, but we still Masayoni. We still sing like Masayoni with instruments.
Yeah.
So this is where I say now, let the South African brand, proudly South African brand, take over, and let's begin to speak and respect the language. If somebody preaches in Shivenda, somebody preaches in Sisotho, in Zulu, let's pay attention to that. It's not about the language. It's not about the English language.
Whose role is that to highlight these churches? Is your church part of the CRL commission processes?
Can I answer in truth? We are not, because no one has called us. No one has invited us. No one has said to us, come over. We are law-abiding citizens. We want to abide by every command and every law and every rule. But someone must begin to say, we not only look at people who worship in town, we not only look at people who worship in big centers with air conditioners, we look at someone who even worships under a tree. So we treat everyone equally. So as soon as we do that, then we can be able to participate.
Why are you waiting for an invitation?
Because...
Why not take charge?
As we speak, I'm taking charge. I'm going to call. I'm going to make sure that we follow up, because we are registered. We do everything above board.
Yeah.
I'm talking about my church, where I am. So we are waiting for anyone to come to us and say, are you doing this? This should be done this way and that way. We are here.
A very sad development is unfolding in the country recently, where we see young children killing other children. These events might be separate, but they reflect a bigger societal problem.
It's a society.
And church is supposed to take the responsibility of building society. What are churches doing about this scourge?
It's very sad. Even now we're watching on the news that there's a funeral going on in Kimberley. A young person, 19 years, not even started life, is stabbed by another young child. So it reflects the mind of the society. Maybe we need to ask ourselves the question, what is it that we are feeding our children in our own families? What are they watching? Who is the biggest or the loudest voice in my house?
What is church doing?
Church is here. Church has been here. Church is preaching. Church is calling people back to God. That's what we are doing. Because we are serving a wounded nation, a wounded congregation. So we must preach love and preach family values. That's where I am. Family values. Let's bring men to church. Let's bring women to church and children to church. I want to say this to the sons and daughters of Zionland. If you go to church, don't lock the door or don't lock your children inside your house. Bring them over. What feeds you, it must also feed them. They must hear the same message that you hear. That's what church must be doing. In my corner, I'm doing it. I'm speaking, I'm saying it. We speak to the youth. We've got youth programs. We've got the youth pastors. We've got a young pastor, Pastor Triple M, who's leading young people into Christ. He speaks their language, and that's part of what I am doing.
The young people in your church, what are their issues? What's troubling them?
Drugs, teenage pregnancy, the usual. Because everyone must always, I must say this, that children go to church does not mean that they're exposed to the greater societal problems. They are exposed to them. You know, that's part of the package. But it is what we say once they get to church.
How do you help them?
Lifestyle. You know, Paul said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. You know, we organize workshops, we speak, we bring in young people, we bring even people that they see on television to come and speak. Because if I speak, maybe there's, no, this old man, you know, is speaking because he's old in our times, you know. Then we bring everyone that has got something, a message to speak, you know.
Do you agree, though, because every time these things happen, everybody looks to government. Do you agree that we all need to find a solution to this?
It's about partnership.
Yeah.
Partnership. You know, government, you know, that's what they do. We're serving the same constituents, if I may use the word. You know, they're serving the people, we're serving the people. So the family is also, it's another constituency that has been neglected. So we need to say, everything begins.
The youth is another constituency.
The youth is another constituency. So, but everything begins at home. Charity begins at home. Respect, dignity, or respect for whatever begins at home. So by the time we speak to government, what have we done in my own Kanyo and Alanda and Minet and Setu?
Yes.
My own children. What have I done? So I need to say something home, and then as they go out to school, into society, then the voice is clear from me as the leader of the house, the father.
One of the defining elements of church is tithing. And it's the biggest debate, as you say.
True.
These charismatic churches want bigger amounts and they have air conditioners. In the tithing process, are you finding that your congregants, one of the things that stresses them is affordability and not being able to go to church because they won't be seen to be contributing money, contributing financially to the church?
I believe that if what feeds you well, you'll not even count the cost. It will not be about I'm paying my money because I'm getting value out of this. So I don't have a problem with tithing. We tithe in our church. People give, you know, we give offerings. They do many things.
Yeah.
But people must see where the money is going to. You know, I'm proud to sit here and to say that as Zion, I've got a building, I've got offices, I've got staff.
Yes.
So people can trace money. I live in a mission house right behind the church. So I'm there. You know, formally trained as a teacher, having worked in different corporate environments, left all that to take care of what my father started. But people must see accountability. That's the main thing about money.
Let's talk about the Alleluia Ministeries resurrection story. Let's talk about Pastor Omotoso. What are your thoughts on those developments and the perceived abuse of children in churches?
God calls, God chooses, God sends. Meaning, God calls you, chooses you, and gives you a particular gift. And you are accountable to Him. And I don't want to sit here and someone will say, oh, Babu Mkhize is judging. No, I'm not judging. I'm speaking the truth now. I'm going to say, every criminality, crime is crime. So if someone has done something wrong, the law must take over. But as a church, a Christian leader, I must say, I don't agree with that. Because, resurrection, the word resurrection, for us as Christians, on the 18th of April to the 21st, we'll be celebrating Christ.
It is that time.
So now I think the devil used it right in this season, so that come Sunday morning, Christ resurrected. So we can't even use the word resurrect. It's become like a curse word.
Do you think that's what this pastor was doing, to try and get ahead of everybody and say, I had my resurrection before you get your time?
Attention.
Oh, wow. Never thought of that.
Attention. And my father, I'll quote my late father, my Bishop Bernard. He will say, lies sell quicker than the truth. But you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. If I come to you and I give you a false story, you will take it very easily. Vis-a-vis, someone will come and say to you, close your eyes, I'm going to lay hands upon you, trust God.
In fact, that's a question I've been asking our other guests, to say, when you attend a church such as Alleluia Ministries, where there's a huge congregation and people support this pastor, you are bound to believe what he purports.
Let's just say this. These days people always believe that God has called you because there's many of you. Jesus had 12. At the end of his life, he went to pray at Gethsemane. There was 3. Jesus, the founder of the faith, had 12. His church had 12 members. So these days people believe that if there's many people, it's real. No. My father started Mount Zion in his lounge. He would move the furniture and then would go and be the choir and be everything for years and years. If it's Passover, if there were 50 people, would say, oh, there were so many of us.
Yes.
So people are moved by numbers, and we must not do that. Jesus, God can use you even if there's 2 or 3 gathered in his name. He can use you.
People watching us now,
yes, ma'am,
who are really conflicted about whether to continue going to church, which church to go to, what it means for them, what would you say to them?
Please come. You know, the truth is still there. Real things are still there. You know, God still uses his prophets, because he said, I do nothing unless I reveal it to his prophets first. So there are real prophets. Let's make sure that we do not cast a net of doubt upon everything that has got to do with Christ. Because I take it as an attack on the movement. I call it a movement. I'm talking about Christianity. It's an attack on our movement, Christianity. So let's not doubt what is written in the good book, because the Bible states very clearly that in the last days we will see these things. We will see these things, and many people will be deceived. Even the elect, they will follow all these deceiving spirits.
I want to go back to that question I asked you. I feel like we didn't address it sufficiently, about how you feel about these colleagues who, the resurrection and the child abuse in the church.
No, we must pray for them. Number one, we must ask God to come and reveal himself to them. They must receive, deliverance themselves. And number two, it's wrong. You cannot hide under a collar and commit such a crime. I call it a crime. To rape, to molest, whatever you call it, it's wrong. And to mislead, it's very wrong. So as colleagues and as a leader as well, I say this, I feel for them. I wish they could repent before their end of time. That's my desire. That's my prayer for them. Because at the end of the day, we need to pray for the lost. And if my brother is lost, I need to pray for my brother. That's my duty as a leader.
Why are we not seeing sufficient outrage from your colleagues? When can we hope to see pastors and priests and leaders of the church coming together to say, this is what we stand for and this is what we will not tolerate?
One word comes to my mind: popular belief and popularity and fear. These days we live where people are fearful to speak the truth. Everyone wants to be politically correct and to be acceptable. So I'll speak for myself. That's why I'm here, to say that wrong is wrong and right is right. Maybe
we're not hearing enough voices, though, saying if it's a crime, that's what it is and that's how it should be treated.
I wish I could have brought in one of my sermons that I preached last year in the area of Ladysmith, where I preached about rape. I just preached about rape. I said, in these days, this is the demon and the problem that we're facing. Our children are being raped. And I started to say, these things are happening in our churches, in our homes, relatives. So that's how you speak.
The places that are supposed to protect you.
Exactly. So, but the main thing is, we need to preach relevant sermons. We need to speak the relevant word. Bring a fresh manna. God fed Israel fresh manna every day. So our congregation needs fresh word. So we need to check what's happening. I cannot turn a blind eye on the news clip. I need to be aware of what's happening. I read papers.
And how it impacts your congregation.
Exactly. I just can't walk in and it's business as usual. I need to open my mouth and say, this is wrong. But the thing is, maybe people are saying or speaking, but it is the medium. They don't have a platform.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
Don't know. They don't have a platform.
What convinced you that you needed to come and give us a piece of your mind?
These days I'm on a long fast, preparing
so
for
most
Passover.
Christians.
40 days observing Lent. Through this time, on my second week praying, I heard the word and the voice say to me, speak. Speak up now. because we are preparing for the big thing come Passover. Speak out. That's what pushed me. The voice of God. Conviction as well. Because you will know the truth and the truth will set you free.
Apostle Thabani Mkhize, we thank you so much for the time
so
that you have. And we know you've made the trip, so thank you and we appreciate it.
And then maybe I can just say this, that I want to ask all believers to go to Passover and celebrate a resurrected Christ. In our church at Mount Zion, we'll be in Mpumalanga Stadium in Hammersmith on the 18th to the 21st. Let's go to church. There's nothing wrong with Christ. Let's go to church. Thank you so much
for your time once again. You're watching The Agenda.